Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Amanda J. Scott, author of Finding My Way Back to Me and an advocate for those healing from domestic, financial, and emotional abuse. Amanda's podcast journey is deeply intertwined with her personal story of courage as she shares her experience of freeing herself after 17 years in an abusive marriage. Based in Sydney, Australia, Amanda now works with people who have experienced various forms of domestic abuse, helping them rebuild their lives and find a new path forward. What makes her podcasting story particularly powerful is how she uses her platform to shine light on the often hidden aspects of abuse that have become normalized in our society. Amanda's here to share how our podcast has become a lifeline for others trapped in similar situations, and how she's creating a space for healing conversations that many are afraid to have. Can you tell us your name and what you do?
My name's Amanda J. Scott, and I'm an author, and I support people that have either been through or are going through abusive relationships. And I'm here to support them, to gently heal what's been broken, make positive decisions in their lives to help them with that, and to rebuild their self-belief and self-worth.
Yeah. What's the name of your podcast?
The podcast is Walk Your Talk, Healing from Abuse. And this is my
Okay.
way of supporting people that have been through an abusive situation. I mean, I
Okay.
called it Walk Your Talk, Healing from Abuse, because these were the two activities that supported me when I was going through an abusive situation. And that was walking in nature and talking with friends. That's what got me through.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old is the podcast?
Sorry?
How old is the podcast?
It's a recent podcast.
Okay.
And yes.
When you say recent,
But
how recent?
But what it's about 3 months old.
That's
So it's quite a
that's that's
but I'm
old.
building up I'm talking to women that have been in that situation.
Yeah.
And I also talk to people who have knowledge and professional experience that can help anyone support going through this situation. You see, in the 2 years I took to extract myself from my marriage and find my way back to being me, there were things that I know now that would have helped me get through the process with less stress and heartache. So
Yeah.
so in that podcast, that's what I share. I want to share information to help women or men get through an abusive situation. Yes.
I'm trying to find the timeline of things. Right? You mentioned the podcast is about 3 months old,
Yes.
and you've said how long have you been an advocating to help people, right, who are going through
Oh, yes.
abuse? How long have you been in that? Because now I'm
Many
trying to say, okay,
years. Many
many years, okay,
years. Yes.
okay,
Many years.
okay. So
But I want to help now with my story. So I share on the podcast, I share my story. And I talk to other women in a similar situation. So I know I have been there. I know what it's like to be lost. I know what it's like to feel alone. And then I know also what it's like to actually get through it and take those steps. Because
yeah,
Walk Your Talk is also a reminder that healing is not just the words or ideas.
yeah,
It's about taking real steps, living your truth, and walking in alignment with the life that you want to create. But you do need support, help to get you there. And there's always help. And that's why I want to bring this out to show people that they're not alone, that their stories matter. and that no matter how far they have drifted from themselves, it is never too late to come home.
Yeah. At the time when I interviewed you for my other podcast, Relatable Wisdom,
Mm.
you already had this podcast. And I interviewed you in early of June, I think June
Yes.
12, right? And so at that time, I think the podcast, that was about a month, 2 months old.
Yes, well, I'm lining up the people, the professionals, and in the next few weeks, there are recordings on there, but in the next few weeks and few months, they will be on. It'll
Oh,
all
they'll be
be
published.
downloaded,
Yeah.
all that downloaded. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that idea.
And
So,
it does
yeah.
take a bit of time to get everything prepared, like it's
Yeah.
yeah. But so yes, that's right. And I share my stories on that podcast. Yes, and it is to help women that they're not alone, that there is
Yeah.
support out there, and that's important. Important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you started the podcast 3 months. I know even before you started the podcast, you've been guesting
Mm.
on podcasts for a long time.
Yeah. Yes.
However, you decided to start your own podcast, right? And you've been sharing your message. Well, I'm curious in terms of in the specificity of why did you decide to start your own podcast? I mean, there's a lot of work, and you already know that.
Well, because once when I found my way back to me, I could not keep that journey to myself. Every woman deserves to feel safer in her own skin, to trust her own voice, and to live life like it feels like hers, not judged by fear or guilt or survival. So this podcast is a reminder to help people, to say, no, you're not alone, that your stories matter.
I would rephrase the question. Sharing your message,
Hmm.
telling people that you're not alone, that your stories matter. You've been doing that for years, right? Even the time I invited you on my podcast, Relatable Wisdom, that was part of the
Mm.
things we discussed, right? And so you were already sharing your message on different platforms and different
Mm.
podcasts, right? So for me, I'm curious, why did you decide to say, okay, I'm going to start my own podcast, right? So it wasn't a question of, oh, I decided to share my own story. I mean, you're already sharing your story, but why did you
Because
decide
it's
to
a
start
way of
your own podcast?
helping. It's a way of helping. It's another
Okay.
medium. Podcasts are another medium of getting out there and spreading your message, spreading your word. And I think that today, women sometimes don't want to have a book at home. Abuse takes many forms. And it's
Yeah.
often hidden. So a lot of these women, they haven't even come to acknowledge that they are in an abusive relationship. They haven't come to that decision yet. Those are, the people that listen to my podcast are not just women that have actually been in an experienced
Abusive,
abuse
yeah.
and are already out or have just said enough. No, they're women that are still in that silence, are still in silence. They're still questioning their worth. They are still putting everybody else's needs first before their own. These are the
Yeah.
women that I can reach with a podcast. They don't want to have a book at home. They don't want to, but they'll listen to podcasts in their own time, at their own
Yeah.
pace. And that's why I introduced podcast. That's why it's important to get your message out to all mediums. So help is
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I would not have wanted that. I wouldn't want books around the house. I would have wanted to listen to something, to
Something like a
hear
meeting.
somebody's ear, to hear somebody other than the voice of my husband's in my ear, telling me
Yeah.
what to do. It's another friend. It's a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. You started the podcast for 3 months now, and so far for the past 3 months, what has been the biggest challenge in terms of running your own podcast?
I think it's all about preparation and getting the right people on your podcast, that has got good information that really will help, clear and real, honest um, message that can help those people. Yeah. Because the stories matter, because each piece of advice that people give, is maybe a moment of truth that the listener will say, wow, yes, I never
Yeah,
thought of it this way. That makes them think. And it says, maybe, yes, maybe I can do the same. Maybe I can change my life. So it's important to bring on an interview that people with an important message that can help others who are your audience, who your audience is. And my audience is about people, and women that want to get through and out of an abusive situation, and they want to find their self-worth and self-belief, and they want to create a better life, not just for them, but for their children too.
yeah. Oh, you mentioned that you soon the episodes will be released. How many episodes do you have on the backlog?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to have a word with my publicist about that. Yes,
Oh,
we've got some uh, a whole array of different people, from people that have actually experienced emotional abuse to financial abuse, real stories, to modalities that can help with the healing. Kinesiology is one of them. And there's other modalities that can help to
yeah,
to how to build your self-worth. And how
yeah,
to, and everything from recognizing these hidden, because some women they think, okay, domestic abuse is something, when they think about it, it's physical violence, but it's not. There is
yeah,
hidden, there is silent, there is insidious forms of abuse that are, well, stripping the independence of women, and even their ability to escape the situation. So it's not just that, and it's also about breaking free from the patterns that no
yeah.
longer serve you. So I talk to people about that. So all this is part of the podcast that will all be uploaded in the next few weeks, months,
I'm
one
about
at a
to share my
time.
screen of the podcast, and so just a quick heads up.
Mm,
I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, so I'll share my screen.
yeah.
So I searched for the podcast. This is your podcast, right?
Yes, that's right.
And I don't know if you noticed something. This is definitely you. This is not your podcast, but this episode is your episode. Without even looking at it, I know that this is
Mhm.
yours, and and my own podcast is ranking there too because I interviewed you. Right? And so it's amazing what happens when just a little search, and this is just one episode of yours that I have on my podcast, and
Yes.
I'm already ranking for the name of your show just because in
I'm Amanda.
why do I
That's
okay.
right.
It was playing. I don't know if you hear the audio.
Yes,
It was
yes, I heard it. I heard it. Yeah.
okay. That was unintentional. So I played that out. Okay, so yeah, the podcast is you crushing it. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is like the thriller episodes, right? Okay. So from when would you start like dropping the episodes back to back? What date is that?
Soon. Soon in the
When?
next I haven't got a date for that, but it'll all happen in time. There is no,
Okay.
everything happens in time. Yeah, so in a few weeks or months. I do not have any dates at the moment, but it'll all happen when it's ready to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying it is,
Yeah.
you're talking about the podcast. A lot of people are hyped and like, yeah, I should go check out that podcast. And I'm like, right. And so
Absolutely. But there's very good information on there to already help women.
Oh, okay.
And it's all
Okay.
about women getting through an abusive situation. So there is a lot of very good information on there. Those 2 podcasts are very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And worth listening to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
Uh,
worth listening to.
yeah. I'm really, really glad that. Wait. Okay. You dropped in the very first episode, March 21, and then you dropped another episode in
Yes.
August 12th. Wow.
Yes.
Kudos.
Yeah.
You are among a very select a very select percentage of podcasters, because a lot of persons after the first episode, that's the end of
Yes.
it, and I'm glad that
Yes.
you have
Yes.
backlog of episodes that you
Yeah.
release.
Absolutely. Lovely. Thank
I
you.
love for us to look at the behind the scenes of, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can't see you, but I can
Okay.
hear you.
Oh, you can
Oh, a little
let me
bit
stop sharing
here.
the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me stop
Lovely.
sharing the screen. Okay.
Lovely.
Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you. Yes.
Okay, because I was sharing the screen.
Yeah.
You could only see the screen.
Mhm.
Okay. That was why. Because I noticed you weren't looking at the screen anymore. So I was like, can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. What was I about to ask you? The behind the scenes of how you make your podcast. So in terms of running the podcast, I know you've done a couple of episodes and you've published it. Do you have someone helping you out with the podcast? If so, what are they doing? And quick break before we continue. I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now let's get back to the episode. I just love to know, a thought of
Oh,
how
I
an
don't know.
idea gets made.
I'm not sure what happens with all the technical side. That's not
Okay.
my area.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know. That is not my area. All I
Okay.
am is about interviewing people with a
Okay.
clear message and getting the message out. That's for me. I'm not very. I'm not that tech savvy, really.
No. Yeah, for me,
Are, are
it's not
you?
a question
Are
of
you?
no. It's yeah, I handle everything. I'm broke, so that's why I handle everything. In the future,
All right.
when I can afford to get someone, I would outsource it. But
Yeah.
I just want to know what your workflow looks like, right? How you
My
how you run your podcast, right? So okay, if someone's handling it, what do they handle? What do they take care of? You mentioned finding people. How do you find those people?
Oh,
Who does the outreach and all that?
yeah. Look, I really want to. Uh, I'm not sure all about that, but what I am sure is that the message. I'm all about the podcast. What this podcast is out to do, to communicate, to talk. I don't know about behind the scenes. I think something you might need to get somebody who's technical to talk to you about people, about things and what happens and how it all happens. But
Okay.
where my area that I've come on here to talk to you
Okay.
today about is about my message and how I am getting out there with my podcast, helping women and supporting them to get through one of the hardest things in their lives. It's a hardest step to take in your life. It's for them to move out of an abusive relationship and create a life that they are worthy of, that they self-belief is one of the hardest things to change, especially when you've been in an abusive situation. So this podcast is really for women that want to a better life, that want to create a better life. That's what it's about. And that's what I've come onto your show to tell you what the podcast is about, not the ends and how it works behind. That's not important to me. It's important about the message of a podcast and how is it helping people who are listening to it.
Well, you wrote one of the books we talked about, and we talked about this in the my other podcast, Finding Your Way. You wrote that book, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the podcast, right? You mentioned that you've interviewed how many persons have you interviewed so far?
I've lost count. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, so it's a lot. Yeah, that's all. The fact that you lost count is a lot. Okay.
Yes. I haven't come here to tell you how many people I've interviewed or the technical side and how I get these interviews or anything. I've just come on to actually talk about the podcast itself and
Uh,
why I started the podcast and what the intentions and the hope of the podcast are.
yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that question is because it's a preamble to the next question I'm about to ask. And so the
Okay.
response you gave me from that question will determine the next question I was about to ask. And, you know, the domestic, okay, what's the word? The law of abuse. So, what's the one you focus on?
Domestic abuse.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know there's so many the different types of abuse. So for
Well, there's
domestic abuse,
emotional abuse. Domestic abuse is, it
yeah, I think
covers everything: the
I d-
physical, the
you
financial, the
you opened
emotional.
it the
Yeah.
the last time. I don't know why I forgot, but you broke it down for me the last time we spoke. And the reason I'm saying this is that
Yes.
for domestic abuse, a lot of persons don't want to talk about it, right, especially after the thing, let's say
Yes.
even after they've left that in this case marriage, even after they've left the marriage, they still have that what's the word, the baggage, right, still holding them back, right, even though they physically they're not
Mm.
still in the marriage. And so it's one of those things that when you bring up a conversation, like, hey, something just leads to something, and then you start talking about it, like, no, I don't want to talk about that, right? It's still affecting. It's like, right, how do I explain this? And you understand, you should understand what I'm saying, right? It's like you're no longer in the marriage, but that trauma that's from the past is still affecting how you behave, what you do. Is as though you're still in the domestic abuse situation. Does that make sense?
Um, I don't quite understand
Okay,
what you
okay,
said, but I think you're
okay.
saying what I thought you might be saying is that
Yeah,
people that already are in an abusive, that leave an abusive
yeah,
situation already have carry the trauma of that
yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's what is,
yeah.
there are things, that's what healing's about, and how to break free from those patterns that no longer serve you. And this is what we discuss on the podcast with experts to tell you how to do that and steps
Oh.
to guide you, to guide people.
And the next question I'm about to ask is,
Hmm.
and it will sound like it's technical, but I have to ask it, so I'll ask. And if it's technical, you
Well,
just
I
let me
said
know,
I
and no
didn't know
problem.
anything
No,
technical,
no,
but
but
I'll give it a go. I'll give
yeah,
it a go.
yeah. You see the topic that you're talking about on your podcast, right? It's a very, of course, everybody's topic is important, but yours it's a very important topic, right? It's a very important and sensitive uh topic because it affects. Okay, now that I'm saying that, I feel like I it's not. I'm not just saying it because it's like I've had guests who they do entertainment. Of course, entertainment is important, but it is not as important as guests whose podcast is about breast cancer, domestic abuse, amongst many other things, right? These things are very, very, very important in terms of spectrum of importance, right? And the question is how I noticed you've been releasing 9 minutes episodes, and um, I I want to know for the interviews you do, right? Uh, how long have okay? I know you've not released those episodes yet, but how long have they been? And why? Because the reason I'm asking that question is I'm trying to understand, right? Um, the how you've approached creating the content for your audience, because your audience is different, right? One of the things you mentioned at the very beginning of the episode is people don't want to read a book. Okay, it's like people don't want to be reading a book about domestic abuse when they're in an abusive situation, and they have if it's their husband that is abusing them in that scenario, they don't want to be reading the book, right? In that scenario, it's yeah, it's kind of compared to listening to a podcast episode where it's you just listening to your AirPods, and it's just going to your head rather than having having you, having to read a book and like, oh, why are you reading a domestic abuse book? What's that about, right? And you get, and so in terms of that, how has that? The question is, how has that influenced how you make your podcast episode, how you approach it, and in terms of the experts you bring on, and yeah, that's the question. I feel like it's very long, and so the question might have got lost.
Yes. I don't understand how to answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know how to. I
Okay.
don't quite understand that question. It's another source of medium. People that won't buy a book, they need to. It's like the movies, having a movie or listening on the radio. There's all different mediums, and
Oh,
yeah, and
yeah.
this. I think podcasts are getting more and more popular, and yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's,
found a
I'm
better way
sure
to ask
you've
you the
got a lot
question.
of, so I
I
don't
found a
quite
better way to ask you the
understand.
question. I
Yeah.
found a better way to ask you.
Oh, okay.
What you just
Fabulous.
said gave me a better way to ask the question.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
what are you, I think
Mhm.
you've mentioned this at the beginning of the
Mhm.
episode, and that is
Mhm.
the message is more important than any other thing, and so you would do anything it takes to get the message across. And that if that means writing a book, you've done that, right? And you could also do you could write more books, right? I don't know what that would look like, but I'm excited to
Absolutely.
see
Absolutely.
what that would look like. If you do write a book, let me know in the future. If you do write a
I
new
will
book,
do.
I should put that in. She already has a book, Finding Your Way, just in case you want to check it out. And now you're doing a podcast because it's not a question of, oh, I want to write a book. It's a question of what I went through is a really traumatic experience, and I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that. And so let me write and share this message and put it across out there to the people, because a lot of persons don't even know. And say that was one of the questions I remember asking you in the past episode, is that a lot of persons don't know that they're in an abusive relationship, and it's kind of hard because how do you deal with a problem that you're not even aware you have in the first place?
Yes, you're right. How do
Yeah.
you, well, that's why they need support. Either a friend, some women don't even have a friend. They haven't
Okay.
got friends. So there's a
Yeah.
voice
They're
out there
alone. Yeah.
helping them, yeah? So I just want to reach as many people as I can, just to be there to help them through it. And when they're
Yeah.
ready, at their own time and in their own space. Because another reason why I have the podcast is also to support people to embark on a personal growth journey. And that's at their own time, in their own time and at their own pace. And that's
Yeah.
really what it's about, because it's not just that, it's also taking the steps to create a new life, a better life. And that's what I want to show. I'm not focusing so much on the abuse. I want to focus on creating a new life, living the
Yeah.
life that you want, not
Yeah.
living somebody else's life, living your own life.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Helping
Well,
people get back into their self-worth. Yeah, for abuse to start believing in yourself and know your worth. That's the most
yeah.
important thing. Mm,
We're getting to the meat of the question, and that is most persons, right? And
yeah.
we've talked about this at length. Most persons,
Mm.
they don't know that they're in an abusive relationship, right?
No, they
For most
don't.
persons, it's their first marriage, right? In this scenario, domestic
Yes.
abuse, it's their first marriage, and so they're like, oh yeah, that's how a marriage is supposed to look like, right?
Mm,
They don't even know that it's an abusive
mm,
relationship.
mm.
So for me, for those kind of persons, right, for someone who knows they're in an abusive relationship, they're actively seeking for help. They're like, oh, how do I get out of an abusive relationship, right? Those people, they're searching for those things. But for
Yes.
me, I'm like, okay, how do you intend to get in front of people who they are in an abusive relationship, but they're not even aware of it, but you want to get in front of them so you can, you know, um, uh, help them as well, and then help them become aware, help them also go through living the situation.
I am there for people that they when they aren't aware, they might have a thought. They might have, well, that doesn't feel right. Yeah? That doesn't feel right. And then something else comes along. You hear something on the radio. No, it's not right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. you know, a lot of women, I was the same. I didn't realize that I was in an abusive relationship. I didn't.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you wake up, you want to be that person who is there to help them, right? Um, make that. If they're it's like they're, in a coma. They're not awake. And if they're not awake, they're not awake. But I'm here to help them when they, come, to be
Ah.
their support. And that's it. Yes.
Okay, okay. So
And the
you're not
more we talk about it, the more we
yeah.
talk about it, the more they can say, wow, yes, well, I thought it was just the physical violence, because we make excuses. We normalize a behavior. And especially, we think, oh, it's not that bad, especially when there's no bruises or broken bones to prove the pain. So women sometimes think, no, there's got to be bruises. There's got to be broken bones. But no, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's the way
Yeah.
we're spoken to. It's kindness
Yeah.
and
I
respect.
think
And it's not just women, it's men as well that go through abuse as well. I'm not
yeah, and
just saying it's,
that's
yeah,
even worse
you
because nobody
know,
talks about those ones. It was like, yeah, like in
so,
terms of men, yeah,
yeah,
nobody talks about it.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
it happens to both of them, both of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
yeah. And so
you
it's, for women that have, um, the hardest thing is to face the truth. The hardest thing
yeah.
is to acknowledge and admit that you are in an abusive situation. That might seem
Yeah.
easy for someone on the outside, but when
But
you're
it's
actually
not.
living in it is one of the hardest truths to face. Mm.
Yeah. The fact that you are not just quote unquote experts, right? Of
Mm.
course you in your own regard you're an expert. But the fact that you actually went through that's what you're helping people with, right? And of course, if you were an expert, unless you studied, you had a degree in that field, and you were helping people, yeah, in your own right, you still have you're helping from a perspective, an angle, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all need as much help as we can in this subject area, right? But the fact that you gone through this, you have a kind of empathy, you understand it's different from, oh, I just read a textbook definition, I'm like, yeah, this is what people go through in the abuse and all that, right? You've someone who've lived through that, and you've left and you've overcome, and so now when you're helping people, right, I feel like the connection will be it will just be on a different level compared to there's this there's an authenticity in the content compared to
Mm.
when someone is just making content out there and like oh yeah, today I'm going to tell you how 7 ways on how to get out of an abusive
Mm.
relationship. It's it's different, right? It's different.
Well, when you've
And
lived it, yes.
yeah,
When you've lived
yeah,
it and you've got to the other side and you are having a better life, you are creating the life that you want, that you deserve. But
yeah.
everybody does, and it's just knowing that you can have it. You can have it and you can get through. Because sometimes when you make that decision, you don't know, you might not have all the answers and you might not know how to take the next step. Yeah, but by simply admitting it opens and it cracks open the door to freedom. And once they've cracked open that door to freedom, they need to have support and help from others.
Yeah.
So I'm just one of those voices that is there to help them, beside them. There is
Yeah.
support out there. They're not alone. There is people that, support groups, their friends, there's counselors, and they're all there to help and support. So it's about, when enough is
Yeah.
enough, please
Um,
move on.
um,
And there is help out there. They're not alone. And that's why I'm getting out there to show them in any medium it is. It doesn't have to be a podcast. It can be any
yeah.
medium,
The
that
message is
they
more
are not
important. Yeah.
alone. Yes.
Yeah.
The
The
message
message
is
is more
everything.
important.
I can make a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll make a Netflix
Absolutely.
documentary. Why not? Add it to the
Absolutely.
to-do list.
Eh,
Yeah, I'd love to see that when it comes out.
well, I'll be on your show. I'll tell you when I bring it out,
Okay, please
because
do.
I
Yeah.
think it's important to get the message out to help others.
Yeah,
Because
that's
isn't
true.
it
The fact that
wonderful
you
when you
mentioned,
actually living the life that you love. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah,
most amazing thing. So I think that's what it's about, helping other people because they can. They can have the life that they deserve and they want. Yeah.
yeah,
If they're not living
yeah.
somebody
Well,
else's life.
yeah. Still, since we're
Yeah.
talking about what we could possibly do to propagate the message, have you thought about having a radio show? I mean,
Well,
you already
that's
have a
another
podcast.
option, but
It's
I'm
just to
focusing
get your
on the
team.
podcast first, and I'm
Okay,
sure
okay,
there'll be a lot of other things. Have you
okay,
thought of
okay.
that?
Yeah, after
Well
I've
done.
thought of that. I've thought of it. Yeah, yeah, I've thought of it. I think it would just be a situation of just touching on the episodes and release and sending it to the radio stations, and that's it. So you don't have to
Mm,
go out of your way to. I mean, you could do a live show, but you don't have to do
mm,
that if you want to.
mm. Well,
The
that's
the
lovely.
yeah, the reason I brought that up is because for mediums like a radio,
Yes.
TV, a
Yeah.
movie, right? If I'm going to watch a movie, I don't tell myself, oh, I'm going to watch a movie about someone who went through abuse. I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch an interesting movie, and I sit down and I watch a movie. And if the movie happened to talk about abuse and domestic abuse, I'm
Mm,
like, whoa, whoa, so this is what it means to have a domestic abuse situation, yeah. And then you get some thoughts flowing in my head. Same thing with the radio. Radio, I'm just tuning the radio and
mm.
I listen to someone speaking, someone like you do have a nice voice. I'm like, oh yeah, this lady, oh, what's she talking about? Okay. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. She looks like she's saying something interesting. And then I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, yeah. And then, right. And so for me, this is me just thinking out loud. It's you mentioned the example of people being in coma and in being for them, and then sometimes I feel like it's the situation we want to meet. You want to meet. We want to meet. Okay, why do I keep saying we? You want to meet your audience where they are, right? Because this is a very how do I? This is a very you spent 17 years in an abusive marriage, and I'm glad you're finally able to get out, but it's not easy, right? It's not easy because for a lot of the times when we were talking on my other podcast, you mentioned that for a lot of times it took you quite a while to realize that you're actually in an abusive relationship, and then it also took you quite a while to muster the courage to say, okay, yeah, enough is enough, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? And
Absolutely.
imagine if someone was there, like all it takes is an idea, right? All
Mm,
it takes is an idea to like, oh yeah, I am this, and right, to really get people to start being curious. Imagine if someone met you, right? Maybe year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, in terms of, you just discover the content, right? And at that point in time, a podcast about abusive marriage wasn't necessarily, you're in a state of coma. That's what, using your own word,
mm,
right? Imagine if um, you saw a movie and so yeah, that movie looks, you know, that's exactly the situation I'm in. So this person is an
mm,
abusive, right? And I get to say, okay, yeah, what are the signs of an abusive marriage? And then you get sucked into the rabbit hole, and eventually you start listening to the podcast episode. So it's a message of compassion. It's a message
mm.
of kindness, right? Right.
Lovely.
It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
that's
message of
right.
kindness because
Mm,
you know this. A lot of persons in domestic abuse, sometimes it leads people to commit suicide. It leads people
mm,
to do some other things
mm,
that it leads people to do, right? Not just
mm.
enduring in the marriage for
No.
a long time, right?
Mm,
It leads people to do other things, and so we want to be in a situation where we are kind enough to say, okay, what would it take for me to be in front of this person that needs this message, rather
mm.
than having them go through. And I'm really glad you started this podcast, right? I'm really, really glad. I'm not
Thank
just
you.
saying it, right? I'm really
Thank you
glad.
very much.
I'm rooting for you, and I'm optimistic to see the podcast reach all its own purpose and touch people's life and get to the people it was meant for.
Thank you. Thank you for having me
Yeah,
on your show today.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's
And yeah, yeah, it's important. The work we do, it's important to get that
yeah,
and to spread the word. And I
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
very much,
Yeah.
Rosa.
Now that I'm chatting with you, before I hopped on this podcast, I was talking to another podcast host, and one of the things she mentioned was that one of the the listener reached out to her and told her that she was going through that exact same thing. Because okay, our own situation is she has a special needs podcast, right, for her
Mhm.
kid, because she has a special needs kid, so she started a podcast for people that have that kind of
Lovely. Yeah.
situation. So what
Mm.
happened was that the exact same thing that our kid was going through was what that other person that was listening to. And so the person
Really?
reached out to
Yeah,
her. And so one of the things we
absolutely.
talked was that it's not every time we're fortunate enough to have people that will send the message to reach out back to us.
Mm.
Sometimes it just helps them and they move on with their life, right?
Yeah,
Which is what we want. And so
yeah.
having them tell us that, oh, your podcast touched my life, that's itself,
That's
it's
beautiful.
really, really good. Yeah.
Very special, very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you
Mm.
get a lot of those messages. I do. I
Aw,
know. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Probably in year one and year two. I love to like say, yeah, Amanda, how's the podcast doing now? I'm like, yeah. And
Lovely.
then you tell me, oh, not to put any pressure. I'm just saying, like, we don't really know what the time is. We could say, oh, maybe it's 5 years. It could be 1 year. It could be 2 years. And
Yeah,
like, yeah. So that's
yeah.
true. We did have a
I
documentary on
trust.
Netflix.
I let
Check
it
it out.
happen. I let it all happen. And whoever's meant to be listening, it's just like that. Whatever's meant to happen, yes, you prepare things,
Yeah. I
you
like that word.
plan things,
I like that word, prepare,
but you
because
but you
a lot of us say whatever.
allow. Yeah,
Yeah, you have to like show up, and then and then
absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
what happens happens, rather than saying, oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you play your part, and then every other thing
yeah.
will be taken care of. Oh, thank you so
Oh,
much, Amanda.
thank you. Thank you for having me on this show. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's lovely to
it's-
see you again. And hopefully I'll see
yeah.
you again soon.
Yeah, hopefully,
Hopefully I'll
yeah,
see you
yeah,
again soon.
yeah. As much as I want that, oh yeah, you should be doing the podcast. Other things still happen, but in one part of my
Yes.
heart, I'm like, oh, she should still be a podcaster. I'm biased. Yeah, that's just the truth. But
Lovely.
whatever happens, right? It's always nice to talk to
Thank you.
familiar face. Yeah. Uh,
Thank you.
m- will you be kind enough to mention the name of the podcast again, and also your websites where people can connect with you?
Yes, it's Walk Your Talk, Healing from Abuse. And you can find it on and connect with me on my website, amandajscott.com. And on
Yeah.
there, there's blog updates, and there's my book, Finding My Way Back to Me, and that's available on all platforms. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so
having me
much.
on
Yeah.
today.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.